Hi, and welcome to part 19 of my Python programming for beginners. Now, this is probably going to be the last tutorial of this series before we move on to more advanced topics. This is the topic of going into classes, which we've already seen classes really. We've used them because as soon as you declare a variable as an integer or a string, you're actually using the classes of integer and string. And I'm going to show you guys how we can see this. And then I'm going to show you guys how to create your own classes, which can be used to create like objects and definitely further enhance what kind of applications games that you can make using Python. So let's go ahead and let's actually just get started by declaring two variables. I'm going to declare a variable called num, and we're going to set that to 1. And I'm going to set a variable, we're going to set that to string, and we're going to set that to a string of jacked here. So we have our two variables, num and string. And I'm going to show you guys how we can know that when we do this, it actually uses a class. So if we do print type, and then we put in num here, and then we're going to do the same thing on our second line, and we're going to put string here, and we're going to run this. Now, let me just make sure you guys can actually see what's going on. So we have class int and we have class str, which stands for string. So our first one, which is num, is a class integer, and our second one is a class string. Now, what we can actually further do with these variables is if we do string dot, we get a whole bunch of things that we can do. So we get capitalize, case fold, center, count, encode, and there's a bunch of them. And there's also, with num, there's definitely some other methods as well, which is as integer ratio, bit length, conjugate from bytes. Now, if we focus more on strings, because it just has a lot more methods in it. So if we do string dot, let's just do cap, it's already capitalized here. Just go, we're just going to do lower, so everything's going to be converted to lowercase. And if we just print this out here, we're going to get all lowercase jacked here. So instead of our J being uppercase, it all goes to lowercase. Now this is what's called a method. So a method is similar to a function, but it is not the same. So a method has to be called with the dot notation, whereas a function would be something like this, def func, and then we have print, and then hello world here. And then to run this, we would just do func. So this is this will be your function here, which if we just, this will be a function, and string.lower is a method. So the main difference between a function, like I said, and a method is going to be the function is called directly, whereas the method is called using a dot notation after calling the name of a object. Now we're going to see how to actually create these and how to create methods inside of our class. So the type of class that I really always like to introduce people to, because it seems to be a very easy class to introduce, is either like a player if you're in a game, or like an enemy if you're in a game, or just a class user. So we're actually going to be creating a user class. And we're going to have a couple different variables, and we're going to have a couple different methods, just so you guys can really get a feel for what a class is. So we're going to start off by defining our class by putting the class keyword, and then we're going to do user, open and close parentheses, and then colon. So now we're in our block here. Now the first thing you have to do when you're creating a class is have a function. So we have our def keyword here, underscore underscore init underscore underscore, and then open parentheses, self, close parentheses, and then you can have your double colon here. And then in here, you don't have to put anything if you don't want to. It's not really going to be a very interesting class if you don't have anything in it, but you don't need anything in it. And then we can have a other thing, which is going to be, let's just call it get info. And we're also going to call this on self here. And this is just going to print hello for now. And then in here, we're just going to do this. Perfect. So this will be our class user. So now if we create a test user here and we set it to user, and then we can do print type test user here. So let's run this. So we actually have class of underscore underscore main underscore underscore dot user. We could just ignore the underscore underscore main underscore underscore right now, just because that is the current. When you run a Python script, it always runs under the underscore underscore main underscore underscore. And then we have our class of user. So that is awesome. So what we can do now is we can actually add in some variables into the user. So we would need to declare variables as we come in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to add our parameters for the class. So we are going to put in username, name, and age. Let's keep it pretty simple, 3 variables. And then what we're going to do is we're going to need to do self dot username equals username. And then we're going to do self dot name equals name. And then self dot age equals age. Now, you don't have to do the same thing. Like I could just do in username, in name, and in age to make it a little bit more visibly different here. And then we can just do this, do that, and do this, just so you guys can actually have a very, very good idea of what's going on. Now we have our 3 parameters in username, in name, and in age. In is just incoming. And then we are setting our variables of our class, which is going to be self, which refers to itself. And we are creating a property or variable called username, and we are setting it equal to the inserted username in here, doing the same for name and doing the same for age. So now what we're going to want to do is when we actually create our user, we actually see that it prompts us for a username, a name, and a age. So what we're going to do is for username, we're just going to put jacked user here. For the name, I'm just going to put in my name, which is Richard. And then for the age, we're going to put 28 here. And then we can just leave this print here for now because it's not going to do anything. So once we run that, once again, we just get that our class is user, and that is perfectly good. So now what we can do is we can actually reference our test user dot name. So let's print that out here. So if we print that out, we actually do get our name Richard here. So we can actually see that we are getting the name. So that is perfect. So let's actually make it a little bit more interesting. Instead of accessing the properties directly, we're going to create methods that just make a nicer output for us. So we already have our method or our function getInfo here, and it references for self. So it is self-contained here. What we're going to do is we are going to print out all the information about this user when we call the getInfo. And just to show you how the getInfo works is if we do dot getInfo here, right now all it prints is hello, and that is it. So very, very simple, doesn't really do a whole lot. And actually, we don't even need to call the print because the print statement is actually inside of the method. So we just get hello here. So we actually want to say, like, this is the information for user, jacked user, and then we're going to state out the name and the age. So let's actually go ahead and let's get started there. So first, we're going to create a f string, which we've seen before. It just lets us put in the variables inside of these curly brackets just to make a nice, very easy string that's easy to format for us and very easy to read if anyone wants to read it later on. So we're going to put, this is the information for, and then we're going to put the curly brackets here, and we're going to do self.username. And then what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and put a colon here, and we're going to do /n because we only want to do one print statement, but we want it on multiple lines so it looks a little bit nicer. So then we're going to put name, and we're just going to put a space here and open and close curly brackets. We're going to put self.name, and we're going to put another \n here, and we're going to put the age and another curly bracket, self.age. So now if we do our test user.getInfo here, and we run this, we actually get, this is the information for jacked user, name, Richard, age 28. So as you can see, like this gets kind of handy, like you can perform a lot of things here. So what we could do is we can actually create like another method here, which is going to be, let's just call it level up. And then we're going to do self here. And then all we're going to do is self.age plus equals 1. So basically level up, it just means that the age has now increased. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the dot get info, then we're going to do test user dot level up, and then we're going to do test user dot get info. So now we're getting the info twice. So we're going to see this is information. We should see the first one being 28 and then the second one being 29. So let's see if this works here. And let me just expand this out for you guys. All right, so we actually do have the first statement here, which shows 28. And then we did the level up, which is just increasing the age by 1. And we can see that the age actually did increase by 1. So we have a lot of options here of what we can do. So if we wanted to do another function here called change name, and we put self, and then we put new name here, and then we could do self dot name equals new name. And then what we can do right after the second get info, we're going to do test user dot change name. And then in this one, it actually prompts us for a new name. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to change it, and we are going to change it to JackedProgrammer here. And then we're going to do test user dot get info, and let's run this. All right, so here is the first instance of it. So we have it's 28, which is perfectly normal because we just reinitialized the test user variable. And then we do the level up, which makes it to age of 29. And then what we do is we actually change the name, which our name is JackedProgrammer, still for Jacked user, and still 29. So you can definitely put parameters with this. You could make classes as complex as you want, as simple as you want, but you will definitely want to learn classes in Python programming just because it really will make your life a lot easier later on when you want to have more complex data structures. And that is all that I have for classes for this Python for Beginners tutorial series. I hope you guys really enjoyed the series. Uh, I'm definitely still thinking about probably making a pygame. I haven't done pygame in a very, very long time, so I might do kind of a learn pygame with me tutorial series where we kind of learn it together. So you guys will see all the mess ups that I do, kind of what I do to figure things out. So that could be kind of fun, as well as I do have some other PowerShell videos that I would like to release, and also thinking about maybe starting a JavaScript for beginners tutorial series. But let me know if you guys have any different requests, either different things in Python, PowerShell, or anything that you guys can think of down in the comments. Like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you guys can be notified when videos come out. And I will see you on the next video.